I'd like to start with mentioning Turkey and the United States have a long history. What is your assessment of the current state of the relationship between the United States and Turkey?
At the moment, of course, we have a friendship, strategic alliance with the U.S. for a period of more than 50 years as a strategic partnership.
Now, I know that you've met President Obama when he came to Turkey. He made Turkey his first stop as President of the United States. I know that you'd also had gone to the G20 summit there in the U.S. What is your personal assessment of your relationship with President Obama? What do you think of this new U.S. president?
In fact, in the first instance, when I look at Mr. Obama, as regards his human aspect and also his political aspect, if I evaluate these aspects of Mr. Obama, first and foremost, his human aspect is very, very likable.
Turkey's Prime Minister Erdogan visits Libya. 5 police officers are wounded in a bombing in eastern Turkey. And a Russian space capsule returns astronauts to Earth. From 6 News Center in Istanbul, I'm Clint Deloatch. Thank you for joining us this Friday, September 16th. Our top story. Turkish Prime Minister Recep Erdogan is in Libya at this hour. Erdogan leads a delegation of Turkish political and business leaders to the Libyan capital, Tripoli. Prime Minister Recep Erdogan arrived in Tripoli on Friday, the final stop in his tour of North African nations being transformed by the so-called Arab Spring. In western Libya, meantime, the battle for the city of Bani Walid raged on today. Libyan revolutionary forces faced fierce resistance as they steamed into the city, one of the remaining bastions of support for deposed leader Muammar Gaddafi. Libyan revolutionary fighters. A deadly suicide car bombing near Khost in eastern Afghanistan. Pro and anti-government groups clash in Amman, Jordan. And hundreds of school students get sick in southeastern Turkey. From 6 News Center in Istanbul, I'm Clint Deloatch. Thank you for joining us this Friday, February 18th. Our top story this hour. In Egypt, Bahrain, Jordan, Yemen, and across the Middle East, tens of thousands of pro-democracy demonstrations are targeting authoritarian regimes. That's complicating things for the Obama administration. Almost every one of those governments is a U.S. ally. ABC News' John Hendren reports.
In Cairo's Tahrir Square, they're calling it the Friday of Victory.
ABC's John Hendren is following all these developments across the Arab world. He joins us live now from Washington. John, U.S. Secretary of State Clinton has urged authorities in Bahrain to show restraint as they attempt to cope with these protests. Now, isn't this the same approach that Washington took with the Mubarak government in Egypt?
It is indeed. The Obama administration recognizes that people throughout the Middle East will notice if there is a change in policy between the way the U.S. treated Egypt and the way the U.S. is now treating these other countries where these democracy protests are going on. Hillary Clinton has said as much, saying we aren't picking sides here in the U.S.
Now, there are also protests in Libya and Iran, 2 countries who haven't been great friends of the U.S. Now, might Washington really want to see regime change in those 2 countries?
There is no doubt that the Obama administration, would like to see regime change, particularly in Iran.
In Libya, supporters of leader Muammar Gaddafi rallied in the capital to counteract online calls for anti-government day of rage. In Tripoli, near the city's Green Square, pro-Gaddafi crowds waved portraits of their leader and chanted their support for him.
As the wave of protests spread across North Africa and the Middle East,
From 6 News headquarters in Istanbul, this is the news with Clint Deloatch.
It's 10 a.m. in Washington, 2 p.m. in London, and 4 p.m. in Accra. I'm Clint Deloatch at 6 News Center in Istanbul. Thank you for joining us. We begin this hour in the Turkish capital, Ankara. That's where Turkish Prime Minister Recep Erdogan is meeting with representatives of Turkey's Armenian and Assyrian communities today. Prime Minister Erdogan met with Armenian community leader Bedros Siringlu at the Prime Minister. Turkish Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu is into the second day of his official visit to Macedonia. The Turkish Foreign Minister began his Macedonia tour on Thursday. Davutoglu traveled to a number of cultural and historical sites and held talks with Macedonian officials. We're going to take a closer look at the Foreign Minister's visit. Professor Nano Ruzin is a Dean of the Faculty of Politics and International Relations at Faun University in Macedonia. He joins us on the line from Macedonia. Professor Ruzin, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Hi.
Professor, how would you describe the current relations between Turkey and Macedonia?
You know, if you say it's excellent, it's not enough.
Now, let's turn to the Foreign Minister's visit to Skopje and other cities there in your country. What are some of the goals of this visit to Macedonia? What does Ahmet Davutoglu hope to achieve while he's there, you think?
We can maybe do 3 or 4 goals.
It is where we take a look back at the week's top stories from Turkey and from around the world. Join me, Clint Deloatch, for News Review, only on 6 News.
Demokrasi için, yeni anayasamız için, özgürlükler için. Benim için yandaş yok, varsa yoksa tek vatandaş var. Alev işine de geçerli, etnik temelli her vatandaşımız işine geçerli. 12 Haziran 2011'de yeni Türkiye'nin yeni siyaset sayfası açılacaktır. Başbakan büyük bir panik içerisinde buradan doğan güneşi görüyor.
Hello, I'm Clint Deloatch at 6 News Center in Istanbul. Welcome to our special coverage of Turkey's parliamentary elections 2011.
And I'm Sidin Küçük. Joining us tonight for our election coverage, our political analyst Shakir Dinshahin and our special political analyst Alan Collinsworth.
The voting today caps weeks of campaigning by the political parties all across Turkey. Here's a look at some of the campaign promises and what some of the candidates proposed. The campaign period for Turkey's June 12th general elections has... I wanted to ask you, this particular election here in Turkey, is it being observed internationally? Are people outside of Turkey concerned about watching this election?
Yes, Clint. In the last 3 years, I can say this is the most observed election internationally. And if you've been walking through the streets of Istanbul and Ankara, you'll see Al Jazeera, you see Fox News, you see BBC, you see all the major broadcasters